Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. It is 11:06, February 10th. So hope everyone's doing good. So yeah, I want to thank again. Try to always give a big shout out and lots of love to people who continue to support this crazy thing I do, Film Fanatic. Really love gotten some new subscribers as of late, and also really appreciate people commenting every day on the videos. I do respond to every comment, so I really appreciate the love and keeping this thing going. Always there's always plenty of movies to talk about. It's pretty wild. I been doing a lot of videos from, of course, the page or channel I've been talking a lot about that I discovered a couple of weeks ago, the Film Crypt, and such an awesome channel. I discovered so many movies. I still have quite a big list of movies that I saw. There's only one in this whole list that I did see before, and that is Children of the Corn, and which was a movie that I saw a bunch of times when I was a kid. That came out in '84, so that was like, right at the cusp for me for getting into horror films. So so I finished up another list last week, and I got all this to go, which is pretty awesome. There's so many movies to talk about, and I just uploaded the other day for as far as newer videos. I do upload videos. I still record videos every day, and I try to upload them every day, or and I kind of bounce back and forth. I had been, and I do it every now and then. Set up a bunch of videos as premieres to kind of break it up a little bit. So I kind of go back and forth a lot, and lately I have been doing more like focus videos on just movie stuff, actual reviews and talks about movies. I try to mix things up. I have a lot of music shows, and then shows of where I'll talk about a director or a cinematographer I really love, or a composer for certain films that I really love. But lately it's been back to mainly doing movie stuff, which has been really cool. One other thing that just came up the other day, which I really want to go see. I've asked a couple of friends about going, and they are not able to go, but I'm kind of thinking of just doing it. Last About a year ago, a buddy of mine took us to go see a really it was one of the best film going experiences I had. But a couple of years ago, or about a year ago, Christopher Nolan, the famous director, had this big project where he restored and remastered 2001: A Space Odyssey, of course, Stanley Kubrick. And so there was a limited release where the movie was going to be shown, and it was playing at it's called Black Bear Cinema, and it's in Bangor. And we went to it, and it was in the middle of winter. It was like pretty much a year ago now, and it was unbelievable. It was so amazing. The sound, the picture, there were some added scenes. It was absolutely incredible. And that was my only time I'd been up there. And it's a really cool movie theater. It's like a real old school movie theater. There's not like the seats are really comfortable, but it's a state of the art sound system. But the way the theater is, it feels like you're in this old school theater. There's like probably 4 or 5 movie theaters inside the complex, but it's called Black Bear Cinema. Really cool. But I'd only been up there once, and I had heard about this theater. They show new films, new releases, but they also show a lot of classics like 2001, and then they show they have somebody was telling me that they had a special screening of Mulholland Drive by David Lynch up there. They do interesting. They have a pretty eclectic mix of different films, but hadn't really um, followed up on what they have. And actually, so the a few days ago, I was just like was looking. I wanted to check out if they had anything coming up, and so I checked it out. And this Friday, they're going to be showing the original Friday the 13th, the one that started it all by Sean Cunningham. They're going to show that on this Friday, which is Friday the 13th, which is kind of mind blowing. And then later on next month, they're going to be showing Friday the 13th, the final chapter, which is pretty much my favorite movie in the franchise. So I was kind of blown away, and I'm thinking of going, even if I can't find somebody. I mean, it's like driving an hour. I've done it before. It's not that big of a deal, but it'd be cool. It's always fun to go at least with one person or two. But anyway, I'm really thinking of just going because this Friday 13th, the original, was such a monumental movie for me when I was a kid. It was definitely like my first, easily uh my first slasher movie I ever saw as a kid, and that introduced me to the slasher genre, which is, even now I'm an old crusty man, it's my favorite genre. And that movie really was the first movie that kind of, well, changed my life, I guess you could say. And so I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm indebted to go to see it because it's like I've never seen it on the blue screen, on the big screen. I've seen that movie so many times I can't even count, and seeing it on cable as a kid, and then VHS, and then DVD, and then I bought a really beautiful edition. Well, I actually got, I think I have two versions, two or three versions of it. DVD. I think I have a separate Blu-ray of it. But then about 3 years ago, I bought this amazing Friday 13th box set, and that was included in it, and it's all like completely restored and just absolutely gorgeous. It's unbelievable. It's pretty much my favorite box set that I have, and Friday 13th is my favorite horror franchise. So, and really thinking back, it kind of might have actually have even been, the first horror movie I ever saw as a kid. Not when I think about it, it was definitely the first slasher movie I ever saw, and I think it might have even been the first horror movie I'd ever seen on television. Because I know I definitely saw it way before, seeing any of the Italian horror films, by Lucio Fulci or Mario Bava or Bruno Mattei or Dario Argento. Like way before I ever saw like films like Suspiria or House by the Cemetery. That was all much later actually, and I know I saw it way before I even saw John Carpenter's Halloween for the first time, and definitely the Nightmare on Elm Street films, which were all like that was a regular part of my life or in my youth because those films were coming out then and they were like this new thing. So yeah, pretty excited. I think I might just bite the bullet. I have the day off on Friday too, which I didn't realize. So yeah, we'll see. And I'll definitely, if I go see it, I will definitely do a big review of it because yeah, kind of that was a life changing film for me. And I still think like I talk about it a lot, but watching movies now, especially buying movies that I saw when I was a kid and seeing how well they age, if they still hold up, if they're still good or whatnot. And I definitely think Friday the 13th I enjoy it more now as an old man because it's, I don't know, when I see it now, like when I saw it as a kid, of course it was like the first movie I ever saw that had Kevin Bacon in it, and all those things. And it was the first movie I ever saw that where teenagers are having sex and seeing teenagers getting slaughtered, all the good things. And it I remember it scared me. I think out of the entire franchise of the Friday 13th movies, I think it's probably the most like suspenseful. It's actually the whole tone of it is so much different than the rest of the films. I really do because, well, a you don't. Jason Voorhees has not really emerged yet, not to the very end of the film, so it's mostly centered around Jason Voorhees' mother, and and the thing that's so cool about that movie is there isn't this. You don't find out they. Sean Cunningham did such a great job with directing that film, but you don't. The big reveal of who the killer is doesn't happen towards the end, and I remember it really scared me when I was a little kid seeing that movie, thinking that wow, the mother is the killer. Because of the death of her son, Jason Voorhees. And it's essentially like this revenge film, more or less. And I remember that idea, the idea of a mother being this murderous, lunatic, just scared the shit out of me as a kid. And the other thing, watching it now, watching it as I've gotten older, I really feel like that film is really suspenseful. It is. There's a lot of for me watching it now. There's so much. I see a lot of influence from Hitchcock in the film, big time. So it has this really suspense. I mean, it's definitely a horror film without a doubt, and a slasher movie, of course. But it's way more suspenseful, and I feel like I see and feel more of a Hitchcockian vibe in that movie. More, as I've gotten older. At the time, I didn't really pick up on that as a kid. So, and it's still just great. So yeah, we'll see. Anyway, I just recently. It was funny. The other day, I was well, as of the last 2 weeks, I've been watching so many new films, older films, but new for me. I've discovered so many fantastic movies as of late that were all expectation movies and all movies that I had never seen before, with the exception of a few, like I mentioned, which I haven't done a show yet, but Children of the Corn, which was a rewatch, but it had been I don't know how many years since I'd seen it, so it was basically like seeing it for the first time. Everything else, pretty much, have been all new discoveries, and so I had mentioned before in previous videos around this time that for what it's worth, I feel like I set a personal record for myself because of this sheer amount of new films that I've seen. Just wild. And I just actually uploaded. Speaking of new films, I just watched a movie that I thought was incredibly overrated. So check it out. I just uploaded it today, and definitely the movie really frustrated me and really aggravated me because I heard so much hype around this movie. I don't even kind of want to mention the name, but just check out the video. Visually, it's pretty cool. And but anyway, so that was a very new film. I Stare at the TV Glow. I think that's what it was called. I don't even care, but brand well 2024 now. But so again, I've been on this kick where I set a personal record. I felt for myself that I have watched so many new films. Like it's just insane. Like usually, as far as new movies for me, whether they're brand new like 2025, 2026, or older films like from the 70s or 80s, new discoveries, usually like typically I will see a brand new movie, maybe a couple times a month, every few weeks. I'm a typically what I do is I like to rewatch. I'm a big rewatcher of films. I will watch films over and over again if I'm into them. I don't really have any kind of thing against that. And I haven't been buying as many movies, but I've been still buying movies, and I've gotten some really good ones as of the last month or two. So a lot of the times when I go out and buy a bunch of movies, I will like kind of immerse myself in that world, and if I really dig a movie, I will rewatch it maybe multiple times. So when I'm not seeing or watching a brand new movie, I will typically be like revisiting a film that maybe I've only seen once or twice, or I saw it once and it was like a long time ago. So it's kind of like rewatching it again. But the last 2 weeks were pretty intense because I was literally seeing a brand new movie every day. It was amazing. I've never done that much new film watching consecutively. And so like the other day I was I'm starting to run. Well, I have run out of shelf space, but I was kind of trying to clean up some of my racks where my movies are and going through them, and I realized, well, wait, I got this whole other shelf down on my bottom part of my shelf of all of these movies that are basically burnt DVDs. There's no Blu-rays. It's all like DVDs that I've gotten over the years. There used to be when you would go into like gas stations a few years ago, or maybe more, but you would go into gas stations and they would have these bargain bins, or even they think they still have them at the dollar store, where they have these dollar bins where you can get these movies for like $1, and they're in these little cardboard boxes. And I used to snag those up. Walmart years ago used to have this big giant tank filled with movies and Blu-rays for really cheap, and then they did away with all of their physical media. Although I think they still sell stuff online, but I'm not positive. But it's definitely changed quite a bit. And I used to get a lot of shit like that really cheap, and it was great. But anyway, so I over the years I had gotten quite a few movies that way. Like a good friend of mine, Charlie Hendrick, who I've talked a lot about on this channel, had burnt me a bunch of movies on DVD, and then in my travels got these other DVDs that were without the cover, and they were just in a jewel case. So I was going through that, and I was like, oh wait, fuck, and then I came across this movie. Can't really see it with the glare. The Honeymoon Killers, which is this movie is fucking amazing, and I'm like, man, I haven't seen this. I've only seen this movie. I watched it the other night, and it was probably only my third time watching this film. I had seen it twice, and I remember my good friend Charlie Hendrick had given this movie to me years ago, and for whatever reason, I had kind of forgotten about it or what have you. I put it on the side, and then it got buried. And then a few years later, I finally watched it, and I was just like, holy shit. And then fast forward a few years after that, or actually a few years ago, I saw this really great interview with one of my favorite directors, William Luswig, the director of the Maniac Cop movies, and also my favorite slasher movie of all time, Maniac, with Joe Spinell, masterpiece. And then he's also the CEO and founder of Blue Underground, which is one of the best boutique labels. Saw this interview with Bill Luswig, and he was talking, and this movie came up, and the people that were interviewing him had never heard of it, and he was like, "Oh, you got to see it. It's one of the best," and it really is. And I watched it the other night, and this is a really beautiful. It's a burnt DVD that my buddy Charlie gave me, but this movie is a fucking masterpiece. It is. It's unbelievable. It's really a beautiful transfer. It is DVD. It's a little scratched up. The special features component is a little bit scratched up. I need to get an upgrade, but it's still amazing. And it's a Criterion collection, which I forgot, which is wild. Honeymoon Killers is a 1970s really low budget cult exploitation movie about this these two people that were monstrous people. It's a true crime story. And it's based on a true story of the Lonely Hearts Killers, Raymond Fernandez and Martha Beck, following the lonely nurse who joins her on. It's basically about this nurse who finds connects with this guy Raymond Fernandez through this like personal ad. Like kind of a well back in the 50s and 60s, there were like personal ads that you could send your information if you were kind of looking to date people. So so Martha Beck, who was a nurse, she ends up meeting Raymond Fernandez and falls like madly in love with him, and they have this affair. But he's actually this total like con man, and they end up targeting women, or he's like this guy who is like targeting all of these women through personal ads, and tries to strike up these relationships with them, and then he like basically robs them blind. And Martha, who becomes his girlfriend, starts going in with him to go starts becoming or becomes his crime partner, and plays plays this role of that she is his sister, and he basically cons and robs all of these women blind, and a series of events happen where things get more and more dangerous, and they end up going on this like killing spree, and they end up killing a couple of women and kids, and it's totally fucked up, and it's a true story. It's a true story, which makes it even more gruesome and more frightening. But it is an absolute phenomenal movie. Sherry Shirley Stoller is in this film, who is such a great actress. Yeah, she is so great. She's been in so many movies. I think I have one here. Can't remember where I put it. I thought I had one here. Another film of hers that I have, but Shirley Stoller was an American actress who was in a bunch of really low budget exploitation movies. Of course, the Honeymoon Killers came out in 1970, prime time. Also, Seven Beauties in 75, A Really Young Girl in 76, Frankenhooker, amazing, in 1990, Splits, Sticky Fingers, so great. The Deer Hunter, Shakedown, Clute, so great, so great. She's fantastic in this film. Also, as the lead, Tony LoBianca, who is just absolutely fantastic in this role. Um, he was also a pretty prolific actor in the 70s as well. Honeymoon Killers in 1970, The Seven Ups 73, God Told Me God Told Me to, which is a killer movie as well. That is an awesome movie. Um, Blood Brothers in 78, Sworn to Justice in 1996, French Connection, he was in that, The Juror. He's still alive too. He's in his like he's 87, 88. Too Scared to Scream in 84. Um, the thing about the Honeymoon Killers is it is such a the script, the writing is so great. I love that. Well, it's from my pretty much my favorite decade, 70s, but it's so gritty and it's really raw, and the way the story unfolds, and when you're going into this movie and you realize, wow, this is a true story. And from what I gather, they didn't really change too much. Like, it is really detailed as to the true events that happened. And it is mind-boggling to think that these things really happened in this story, because it's truly unsettling. It goes into some there's one scene, I don't want to spoil it, but there's one area or scene or scenes in this film where it goes into where this child is murdered, and it is like, and you don't, and it's shot so well, and it's not like in camera, it's not, it's kind of off camera when this whole like just horrible thing happens. It's kind of off camera, but you're, as a viewer, you're fully aware of what's happening, and it's like, it's terrifying, and it's so disturbing, and it makes it more terrifying that way, that you don't actually see, what's happening. It's unbelievable. The script is so great. The writing, the acting, the cast is so great. It's pure '70s cinema. It's really gritty. It's raw as hell, and but this movie packs a fucking punch like no other. Like, it really is. It's got to be, this came out in 1970, so it's got to be one of the first kind of true crime stories, other than In Cold Blood, Truman Capote's book, which is another classic, which is something I really want to watch. And that came out, interesting, looking up, In Cold Blood came out in '67, so that came out before, by Truman Capote. That's another brutal fucking movie. I love that movie to death, and that's another movie I want to do a show on. Um, so fantastic. And it was so just what a nice surprise the other night. I think it was, I watched it Sunday night. I saw the TV glow. I tried watching that movie, which I just posted a video of that this morning. That came out 2024. It's a A24 movie. And I tried to give it a chance. I tried to stick with it. I made it to maybe an hour and 10 minutes, and I just couldn't take it anymore, and I took it out. And then I realized, before I started watching that movie, I was going through some of my DVDs, and then I was like, oh wait, that's when I discovered the Honeymoon Killers. I was like, oh shit, I need to watch this. So I didn't make it all the way through. I stared at the TV glow, or I watched the TV glow, and then I took it out, and then I put in the Honeymoon Killers, and it was interesting because I'm like, okay, this is a fucking movie. Like, this is a movie that's got incredible direction, beautiful. The cinematography is awesome. I love how raw it is. It's super low budget. It's super like in your face, but the story is so riveting. The writing is so great. The cast is just so great. It really, and the way the film kind of unfolds, like, you get this as soon as the movie starts and you're introduced to these characters, about 5 or 10 minutes, like right away, there's a likability by with all of these characters and this cast, and it's just a really interesting story. And then you get this sense, at least I did, as things are kind of progressing, and they eventually meet through this ad that they receive, that they both, hook up through, and there's a series of where they're sending these love letters back and forth, and you can tell that, like, it's getting more. There's like this more, much more of a, like, this obsessive nature going on, where it's like, okay, this is kind of getting fucking weird and abnormal, I guess, and it's just getting more and more strange. And then when they finally meet, you get this, like, really intense kind of sense of dread that things are just going to get worse from here on in. Um, yeah, it's pretty unbelievable, especially when, obviously, when Martha Beck and Ray Fernandez's characters, played by Shirley Stoller and Tony LoBianca, when they meet in person, and especially Tony LoBianca's presence on screen is just so great. What a great actor they both are. He there's scenes where he is, just his presence alone is so powerful, and both of these characters are very kind of complex. Like by the second or third act of this film, you're kind of repulsed. Well, you're kind of horrified by the end of the film of what these people do. But it's in the beginning and like the first, second act, part of the third act, I found myself being drawn to these characters because they are kind of complicated and there's something really, well, tragic. There's an obvious sense of real loneliness that they have, but they're also they have this interesting, I don't know, quality to them where they're likability. There's a likability to them, and there's a like. I found myself kind of caring about them because I like their characters and I was drawn into them, and they're very human. But then when you think about, wow, okay, well, these people, this is a true story. And there's a thing that they go into at the start of the movie where they basically, at the beginning of the film, where they give this little prologue of that, this is based on these, true life crimes, and that it's pretty much to the T, historically or factually accurate. So when you kind of like feel like you're getting, at least for me, which was really interesting, where you're caring about these characters, even though things are just getting worse, and things are just going to get completely batshit crazy and more out of hand, and it's going to get darker. But when I started feeling like I'm caring about these characters, having some empathy towards them, and realizing, wow, okay, they're human beings, and I get their sense of loneliness, and they are desperate. There's I don't know, some kind of likability, a quality of them because they're vulnerable that I like, and that they're kind of complicated. But then when you start thinking and come to the realization of how monstrous they are, because I started feeling empathy towards them, I start feeling kind of conflicted. Where you're like, ooh, wow, this is weird. Like, I'm kind of caring about these monsters, and it's like it makes you feel. It made me feel kind of uncomfortable. And to me, right there, right in those moments, I'm like, man, this is the power of cinema. This is the power of a great script, great acting, great direction, great director, the whole thing. But this is the power of cinema, because I think that's what cinema should do. Like, that's what film, that's what art should do. Should you want to be entertained, and again, this movie is, even though it's such a brutal and kind of horrible story, it still is a very entertaining movie, and it's still done so well. And these characters all have lots of different colors to them, so it's not. And you don't. There's a series of these reveals of where, when you first meet these two characters, you don't think they're like, you don't pick up. I didn't, at least for me, I did not pick up at all that they are, total psychopathic killers. Not at all. It was like this slow lead into that, and they have this likable quality, and it's interesting because I felt like how these crimes were started, and the whole conning aspect, of robbing these women. Obviously, that's a crime. It's a horrible thing. But the way they kind of go into this life of crime and what that leads to, even at that point, I felt like okay, maybe they're, yes, what they're doing is totally illegal and deplorable. They should be in prison, but they're I felt like, well, they're not like, I didn't feel like they were going to end up start killing people and basically become these serial killers and start killing children. I didn't think they would go that far, but then they eventually do. And it's really interesting because I felt like going into it, there were desperate people, lonely people, uh, doing whatever they could to survive, and because of the situation and the circumstance, like I don't feel like they set out to be these brutal killers. I think there were these um, situations that happened in the story where they felt like it just got worse and worse, and that they um, needed to cover their tracks more, and all due to their fucking insane behavior. But I felt like they, in this weird way, they didn't set out to be killers, and I didn't think that that was their their intention or intentions. But because of these series of events that they created, obviously, they ended up going that far, and so it's really interesting. It's a really really cool movie, and again, even though it is a very dark and brutal movie, it is a really well done movie. I mean, it's really really good. This is a movie I think should be talked about all the time. I mean, it's such an exceptional movie. If you love gritty, grindhouse exploitation cult movies, this is definitely that for you. But if you love this whole, well, I kind of mixed feelings about like the whole true crime popularity thing. It's kind of a weird thing for me, but I guess I get it. It's fascinating, but I'm not like a fan. Like some people will take it to an extent of where they'll like hang up posters of like, kind of fucked up shit. Um, as far as like, kind of like making these people into almost heroes. I know this girl who went to an art gallery opening a few years ago, and there was a bunch of artwork that was on display from various serial killers, and people were actually like buying the art of these serial killers, and I'm kind of like, that's, yeah, I'm all set. That's kind of disgusting. Um, I do find it. I mean, obviously, the psychological aspect of it. I do find it fascinating, but as far as like the pop culture aspect of it, it's kind of weird. But again, if you are kind of interested in the genre of true crime, this is definitely a movie for you. Like this is really really good. This is a movie I never hear talked about. I kind of literally forgot about this movie. I don't know how I did, because I the last time I watched The Honeymoon Killers was probably a couple of years ago, and up until that point, I had only seen it like really twice before. And then the other day, or the other night, just on a whim, I came across it, and I was like, "Oh fuck, I need to watch this movie." And I'm like, "Man, this movie it's so good, it's so good." And the other big surprise that I forgot about was that it's a Criterion collection. So really, really good. Just a tremendous movie. Really, really good. I think, if you're a fan of kind of exploitation movies like I am, real low budget cult movies, it's that too. It's definitely that. But I think it's one of those movies that is is more than just a cult movie. I think when you look at it as just as a movie, it's a really good movie. I think people who are not necessarily into sleazy exploitation movies would really dig this movie because it has this. It's got this. It's. I mean, of course, it's got the real low budget quality of it, aspect to it, or aspects to it that I really love. But it's done it. I feel like it's of such a high quality that it is. It would be a film that people who are not into, you know, I don't think you don't have to be a Herschel Gordon Lewis fan to just love this movie. I think if you just love cinema, and even if it's not the exploitation genre is not your jam, I think you would probably dig this movie because it's a really really good film. Um, I definitely want to try to get an upgrade of it because the quality of this DVD is good, but the audio is a little bit off. I have to certain parts of where the dialogue is. I had to turn it up a little bit louder because I couldn't really make it out. But it's still really really good overall. Um, it was directed by Leonard Castle, and Leonard Castle was an opera composer. There's a really cool special features aspect of it, but again, I was kind of bummed. I was watching it after I watched the movie, and it's a really old DVD, a really really old copy of this movie. And when I got to the special features, the movie played perfect. There was no uh, glitches. But when I got to the special features, it was all glitchy, and I couldn't. It wouldn't play. It was kind of a pain in the ass. But I had seen it in the past, and I definitely need to get an upgrade of this on Blu-ray. That would be amazing. I'm sure it exists. I don't. Again, I don't hear anybody talk about this movie at all. I think it's really, really unknown, like a super unknown movie. But I think it's just, I think it's just an incredible film. It really is. It's a true underground cult gem that no one talks about. That's the best way I can describe it. Um, and Leonard Castle uh, started off as a an American opera composer and director. He was most well known for the Honeymoon Killers, which is wild because it says on here, looking it up, the Honeymoon Killers was his only movie that he ever directed. Um, that can't be true. That's insane. If that's true, like what? Yeah. He also made he wrote operas and he made an NBC television opera. He had the NBC television opera theater, which was a series he had that was on television that would show and broadcast operas. Fucking crazy. That so like the Honeymoon Killers was the only movie he ever directed in his career, and he was an opera composer. Crazy, crazy. But I can't recommend this movie enough. 1970, The Honeymoon Killers. It's an just an incredible film. I definitely need to get an upgrade of it on Blu-ray. I've only seen it 3 times, and when I first got it, again, I got this DVD copy of this movie, a burnt copy, even not even. Uh, the quality's pretty good, but it was really cool to see. I forgot that it was originally a release by Criterion, and there's a lot of special features on here, although it's hard to access them now. But I definitely want to get an upgrade and definitely check this movie out. It's incredible. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Peace.